Hey everybody, it's Terry Wildemann with SHIFTology Live. I'm so glad you're here today because today's the beginning of a 12-week experience. If you remember a few weeks ago, we decided to shift, and notice the word shift, from a 3-day event to a 12-week experience. So every week you're going to be getting a training from myself or one of my maestros to assist you to evolve into an unstoppable, intuitive entrepreneur. So I used to saying intuitive leader. Anyway, today I'm going to be talking about Shiftology. Shiftology is my brainchild, it's my concept, and it's based on a lot of the experiences that I've seen people go through during the 30 years that I've been in business. I've been a coach since 2001. And what I know is when we learn how to shift and pivot in the moment, it truly helps us to be flexible, independent, and we can attract freedom in different ways. So when I explain Shiftology today and what is involved in it, I believe it's really going to help you reignite yourself and your business. So I'm going to bring up the slide. Excuse me one moment. There we go. All righty. So shift is all about spirit, honesty, integrity, freedom, and trust. And I'm going to be getting into that in just a little bit. Shiftology, again, is my brainchild. It's my concept, and it's something that I really, really love talking about. And in this presentation, we're going to be talking about what exactly is Shiftology. What does the SHIFT acronym stand for? And I already gave you a little hint. And how does it fit in each side of business? And we're going to talk about Shiftology and the DISC behavioral profile and values. So Shiftology is the art of intentional, intuitive, and graceful change. I know for myself, anytime I've had to shift and pivot, and most recently it was with this 3-day event, I had to take a step back and listen to my intuition. It was really hard. Things were getting very challenging. So once I listened to my intuition and turned off the idea of the 3-day event, I shifted to intentionality. What is it that I actually want? How can we present this to create an experience for the people that we want to serve? And then from there, once I really got into that intuitive, intentional place, the change happened very gracefully because I got quiet and listened to what was inside. I'm not going to kid you. It was not an easy process because I had control. I wanted that 3-day event. I had spent 2 months preparing for it. But now it's being presented in a much lighter, much more flexible fashion where you can learn much better because every day you're getting snippets of the 3-day experience, or not every day, every week, you're getting snippets of the 3-day experience, and you're not sitting in front of a computer for 3 days. You're going to be getting it over a 12-day process, or 12-week process. So Shiftology is all about shifting. Shifting. So what is Shiftology plus DISC and values? DISC is a behavioral profile. I first took this profile in 1994. I was a military spouse. I wanted to learn how to communicate better with the women who were part of the wardroom. We were Navy, and my husband was in command of a ship, and I just really wanted to learn more, and this landed in my lap. I learned a lot about myself. I learned who I was, how I was perceived in the world. And I ended up getting, after I filled out the profile, I got this 35-page report. And I sat in the den after I put my girls to bed, and I read this thing, and I'm highlighting this, and I was like, no, that's not me. That's not me. That's just not me. And I just put it away. And a few weeks later, I went back to it. And boy, did I have the shock of my life. Because everything that I said was not me, indeed I did. And indeed was me. And some of those parts I didn't really like about myself. And I thought, wow, look at how powerful this is. So when it comes to leadership and team building, the profile held the mirror up and allowed me to see who I am and how I operate as a leader and as an entrepreneur. Some of it was great. It was absolutely fantastic. But other parts of it just didn't jive with how I saw myself. So I gave the report to several of my colleagues, actually some of the women in the wardroom, and I said, what do you think about this? Do I do this, or this? Guess what? All of them said, this is you. This is you to a T. So I had to own it. And ever since then, I have been on a professional development role where every day I want to get better and better and better and better. So when we put DISC with SHIFTology, and then we add a values component to it, which we call driving forces, it integrates knowing who you are. It identifies your strengths, it identifies your weaknesses, and it's important for success in business. Because when you learn about yourself first, then you can shift to a place where you can truly understand where other people are coming from, understand how they see you. And when you learn about the other behavior styles and the other and the values that people hold, you can then sell better. You can then communicate on a team better. You can then improve your relationships. And you can do so much more when you integrate all of these tools. So what about how shifting integrates with the personal, the practical, and the spiritual sides of business? From a spirit perspective, an energy perspective, look at how your energy integrates in your personal life, the practical side of your business, and the spiritual side of your business. It's really huge because when any single one of those parts are missing, the practical, personal, or the spiritual, it compromises the other. You're only working at 50% or maybe even less than that. The honesty part in each of those three areas is part of what I was talking about earlier, looking in the mirror. This was a part that I had a hard time with when I got my DISC profile. This was the part that I continuously do for myself in looking in the mirror, because when you're honest with yourself, you get into a place of integrity. You get into a place of holding yourself accountable. So honesty is huge to be able to shift, and is part of the SHIFTology concept in all of our courses and in our programs. With the intuitive intention, you bring in that intuitive component of yours. You stop running away from it. How often have you run away from your intuition and then lived to regret it? I know for me, one of the hardest times in my business was in 2009 when I had to close my leadership center. I owned it from 2001 to 2009, and every day I kept waking up to a migraine. And this was at the end, towards the end of 2009. And I knew in my heart that it had to do with closing the center, but I didn't want to admit it. And I held on, and I held on, and I held on. My intuition was screaming. It was during the time when the bottom fell out financially of so many different businesses. And as a result, a lot of the contracts and a lot of the coaching clients were no longer coming. So when I finally listened to my body and my intuition, it was amazing how the migraines, bam, disappeared. And I started the process of closing the center. So with intention, I went ahead and did what I needed to do because I listened to my intuition. So intuitive intention. The next segment is focus and freedom. Focus, when we focus clearly and know exactly what it is that we want, and we own it, look at how it affects the personal, practical, and spiritual sides. How do you think you're going to respond to it? How do you think freedom feels from a personal perspective, a practical perspective, or a spiritual perspective? Focus and freedom go hand in hand. And we focus on what we want and our goals, we end up, when we achieve our goals, getting the freedom that we seek. And lastly, it's trust. Again, in the personal, practical, and spiritual sides of business. When we trust ourselves in the personal side of business. When we trust ourselves in the practical side of business, and intend and expect what we need to do and know in order to be able to achieve the freedom that we seek. And from a spiritual side, when we trust ourselves spiritually, and this is all evolving, we grow in mind, body, and spirit. So SHIFT stands for spirit, honesty, intuitive intention, focus and freedom, and trust. And if you have any comments, please put them in the Facebook comment section down below, and I'm very happy to answer whatever questions that you may have. Let me take a look here, but if we have any questions, reload. And if you're listening to this on LinkedIn, please also go into the comment section, and I don't have it up on this computer, but if you, hi Judy, thank you for being here. So if you're on LinkedIn, please do the same thing and just ask your questions in the comment section. So let's go to the next part. Intuitive Leadership U. What do? We develop entrepreneurial leaders. SHIFTology Lab. We offer self-study courses and coaching to help you develop in mind, body, and spirit. And then this Facebook group where we will have training just like today, not real big training, short snippets of training to assist you to evolve into an unstoppable, intuitive entrepreneur. So if you have any questions, please put it in there. Let me find this mouse. Let me stop sharing here. Remove. Hey, I'm back. So I love the SHIFTology concept, which came to me actually intuitively, because it helps with your inner business game. Your inner business game is your driver. It reignites you, and it reignites your business in ways that you may not even understand. So when we go into the shifting and we pivoting and we're in trust spiritually, we look at ourselves honestly and adapt to our fears and own our fears and work through them. We step into things with intuitive intention. That intuitive intention helps to set the stage for focus and the freedom that we want to look for. And lastly, the trust piece. That trust piece is so huge, because when we learn to trust ourselves in mind, body, and spirit, we elevate ourselves from the inside out. For me, that trust piece has actually been one of the most challenging pieces, because my spiritual gifts kept coming at me so fast and so hard. And this was back in 1998 when I became a Reiki master. And after my first attunement, all my gifts just exploded. And I was getting very concerned, very upset, very, what is this that was coming to me? And once I settled down and I realized that these spiritual divine gifts were there for a reason, and I was able to integrate them in my business and work with them from the personal, practical, and spiritual side of the house, I then started to trust myself a little bit more. And when coaching folks, now my intuition, it's the information that comes is so intense and so amazing. And I would really love to have you experience the same thing. So stay in touch here in the Facebook group every Wednesday, either at 11 o'clock or 4 o'clock. We're going to be sharing Eastern Daylight Time. We're going to be sharing training to assist you in your evolution into an unstoppable intuitive entrepreneur. So until next time, Make it your best week ever. Thank you for coming.